today I'm gonna do like a soft-spoken ASMR type of video, and I'm going to be talking about a case. Her name was Rachel Timmerman, and she had a daughter that was 11 months old, and her name was Shannon. And this case was in Cedar Springs, Michigan, and if you guys didn't know, I'm from Michigan. Sorry, my cat's laying right behind the iPad. And I've heard of this story before, and it's just a very, very sad story. I'm going to link the resource down below, but everything I'm reading off of is just off of like Wikipedia, and I just like dumbed it down to like certain like parts of the article, so it's gonna like talk about the person who killed them, talk about backstory, so it's not all gonna be in like a certain order. It's just like, and I'm gonna be reading it, and I listened to it on a podcast before, so sorry if but let's just get right into it. So Marvin Charles Gabriel, born on October 18th of 1953, is an American murderer, rapist, and a suspected serial killer convicted of the 1997 kidnapping and murder of 19-year-old Rachel Timmerman of Cedar Springs, Michigan. Timmerman and her 11-month-old daughter, Shannon, disappeared 2 days before Gabriel was set to stand trial on rape charges filed by Rachel the previous summer. So basically, prior to that, he did rape Rachel, and 2 days before his trial, they died. So if I think they'll talk about it later on, but that's just like something, if you guys are a little confused. Rachel's body was found in Oxford Lake, weighted down by cinder blocks. Shannon remains missing. To this day, she still remains missing, but is presumed deceased. Although Gabriel was not tried for killing Shannon, court documents describe her murder as virtually undisputed. I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on. This is what Marvin looks like. Gabriel is also the prime suspect in the disappearance and murders of several other people, including an additional witness who was also set to testify against him in the trial of the rape, his handyman, another potential witness in his family, friend, and an unknown man. The bodies of these people who were witnesses in his case are yet to be found, but various items belonging to them were recovered from his home. So there was other people that he did murder, but they were like witnesses, like people who saw like the murder, I'm pretty sure. The case was received a national attention for the brutality of the crime and for the controversial sentence. Michigan abolished the death penalty in 1846, so we don't have the death penalty. But as Timmerman's body was found within the Huron-Mustang National Forest, a federal government-owned forest, the murder was therefore also a violation of the U.S. federal law, which authorities the death penalty irrespective of local state law. Gabriel, who was tried in the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Michigan, thus is the first person sentenced to the death by a federal court located in a non-death penalty state since the federal death penalty was reinstated in 1988 on December 23rd, 2024. Gabriel's death sentence was commuted to life without parole by President Joe Biden. Nothing wrong with Joe Biden, by the way. It's just okay. Now it's going on to his early life. Gabriel is the fifth of 6 children of Marvin and Elena Gabriel. Gabriel's father was an alcoholic who reportedly abused him, which I've noticed that in a lot of cases, the parents kind of did some bad stuff. Gabriel's parents were often absent from the home, leaving his sister to care for Gabriel and his brothers. Gabriel's sister, Yoni, remembered when her mother threw a butcher knife at her father. Now it's going on to the assault charges. On August 7th, 1966, Rachel Timmerman reported to Newaygo County Sheriff's Department that she had been raped by Marvin Gabriel. The previous evening, she had been invited to a card game by a family friend named Wayne Davis and a classmate of Rachel's named Mikey Gabriel. Davis and Gabriel arrived to pick up Timmerman along with Gabriel's uncle Marvin. On the way to the card game, Marvin Gabriel allegedly forced Davis and Mikey Gabriel out of the car before driving off and raping Rachel. Gabriel was arrested and charged with the crime. So this is what Rachel and Shannon look like. Okay, now it's on to the disappearance. On June 3rd, 1997, two days before Gabriel's trial on the charge of rape, Timmerman left the house with her 11-month-old baby daughter, Shannon, telling her family she was going on a date with a man she met at work. Her father soon received a letter stating that she planned to leave town and elope. The prosecutor and judge presiding over the case also received letters in Timmerman's handwriting, stating that the rape allegations were fabricated and that she wished to drop the charges against Gabriel. Another letter identified the man that she left with as Delbert. Rachel's family believed the letters were legitimate and her disappearance was not investigated at the time. If I remember correctly, it was actually Marvin Gabriel, the killer that killed them. He acted like this other guy. Plotted on her and basically lured her in. So I don't know. But back onto the investigation. Oh my gosh, my cat. I'm so sorry, guys. On July 5th, 1997, two fishermen found Rachel's body in Oxford Lake, chained to cinder blocks and her face wrapped with duct tape. According to the coroner, she was alive from when she entered the lake, but died from drowning. Gabriel quickly became a prime suspect in her death. A search warrant was executed from his residence, and keys that matched the padlock used to secure Rachel's body were found at Gabriel's home, along with concrete blocks stained with the same paint as the ones received from the lake. Marvin's nephew, Mikey Gabriel, led police to the campsite that had frequently been used by his uncle. Gabriel's tent was found there along with bolt cutters, chain, duct tape, a woman's hair clip, and nipples from a baby bottle. Gabriel's neighbor reported that Gabriel had a handyman named John Weeks. Investigators contacted Weeks' girlfriend, who identified a photo of Gabriel as a man introduced to her as Lance. She reported that Lance had left the area with Weeks and she hadn't heard from him and she was unsure of how to get a hold of him. She also reported to police that on one occasion she caught John on the phone with a girl named Rachel. When she confronted him, she was told he was trying to do a favor for Lance, who was interested in being set up with her. Authorities believe that Weeks was the mystery date who picked up Rachel and Shannon on the day they were last seen, that he arranged the date at the behest of Gabriel. So, okay, that's what happened. This fake guy that Rachel went to go meet up with that day was Weeks. This guy that Gabriel, The search for Gabriel lasted 2 months until they received a tip that Gabriel was set to receive a Social Security check from a post office in Sherman, New York. FBI agents covertly staked out the location and he was arrested as he left the post office. Timmerman's daughter Shannon has never been found. However, it is virtually undisputed that Gabriel caused her death. And then here's some other disappearances. Gabriel is a suspect in the disappearance of several other people. Gabriel lived in a house owned by a man named Robert Allen, who went missing in 1995. Gabriel cashed Allen's Social Security checks and lived in the house until 1997. Gabriel was convicted of Social Security fraud in July 1998 for his use of Allen's checks and sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. Wayne Davis, the family friend who invited Timmerman the night she was raped, disappeared in February 1997. Davis was set to testify against Gabriel at the upcoming rape trial. Davis' residence was largely undisturbed aside from a stolen stereo system. It was later discovered that Gabriel had attempted to pawn it. In July 2002, Canuous found Davis' body in Tinwood Lake, another body of water in the same national forest where Rachel's body was found. John Weeks' whereabouts are also unknown. Gabriel was the last known person to see him alive in June 1997. Weeks and Allen are presumed deceased. Gabriel remains the prime suspect in the disappearance of 3 men, but has not been charged. Now on to the trial. Gabriel was tried in 2002 for the murder of Rachel Timmerman. The prosecution presented testimony for the multiple witnesses who described Gabriel's propensity for violence, including other physical and sexual assaults. 2 witnesses testified that their homes had been set on fire following altercations with Gabriel. Another woman described how Gabriel trained a rifle on her and her 2-year-old child, evidence implicating Gabriel in the disappearance of Allen and the other men, who was also admitted. The trial was noted for the judge's decision to deny the defendant's right to fire his counsel and defend himself in court due to Gabriel's erratic behavior and frequent disruption of the court proceedings. In full view of the jury, Gabriel punched his defense attorney in the face and committed 40 major infractions. At the Cologne County Jail, Gabriel filed numerous bizarre motions using abuse and obscene language. During his appeal, I need to put on my glasses. Appellate court affirmed that the district court had every reason to deny Gabriel's right to represent himself, noting that his erratic, disrupted behavior would certainly have continued if he had the opportunity. The defense countered that Gabriel's temper tantrum and his actions were the result of multiple car accidents that had resulted in brain injuries, and as well as troubled childhood, he was convicted and sentenced to death. Now on to the death penalty debate. It was the United States versus Gabriel. It is considered a landmark case for its use of death penalty as a non-death penalty state. Capital punishment has been abolished in Michigan since 1846. Michigan was the first English-speaking jurisdiction to eliminate the death penalty. Federal jurisdiction, I cannot pronounce words, sometimes it just doesn't flow in my mouth, allowed prosecutors to seek the death penalty in this case. Rachel's body was found on federal land in Manastee's National Forest, allowing prosecutors to try Gabriel in federal court and seek the death penalty on federal charges. This sentence is not provided for under Michigan law. Gabriel was the first person in the United States to receive the death penalty for a crime committed in non-death penalty states, since the federal death penalty was it's basically repeating itself. During the trial, Gabriel's defense argued that she might not have been killed outside Manistee National Forest, but being transported into the park to be disposed of. Therefore, the murder occurred on the state property instead of federal property. The jury found, and beyond a reasonable doubt, that Gabriel killed Timmerman inside the National Forest. In 2011, Gabriel appealed both the conviction and the sentence. The defense maintained the jurors should have been told that Gabriel had been tried in the state court. He would have not faced the death penalty. In this appeal, Gabriel's defense argued that under the 8th Amendment in the Federal Death Penalty Act, Gabriel was entitled to argue that the jury, during the penalty phase of his trial, that they should consider residual doubt that he killed Timmerman inside the National Forest. The conviction was upheld, but in this sentence was overturned. In the decision, the court wrote, and now it's just basically copy and pasted like what the court wrote. The case was not brought to serve a special national interest like a treason or a terrorism, different from the normal state interest in punishing murder. The jury should be allowed to consider whether one or more of them would choose a life sentence rather than the death penalty. When the same jury, considering the same defendant's proper punishment for the state crime but prosecuted in Michigan State Court, could not impose the death penalty. Okay. In 2013, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, sitting en banc, overturned earlier decision by 3-judge panel, and the death penalty was reinstated. Gabriel sat on death row at the United States. All these names I can't say. Currently, he is held at the United States Medical Center of Federal Prisoners in Springfield, Missouri. Commutation of federal death sentence. On December 23, 2024, Gabriel's federal death sentence was commuted to life without parole after outgoing President Joe Biden granted sentence commutations to 37 to 40 inmates on federal death row. Media coverage. This case garnered national attention and was featured on Investigation Discovery, which I love Investigation Discovery, so go check them out if you haven't. Best ever. Love that show so much. Very sad stories, but they reenact stuff. The way they explain it, it's perfect. I love it. FBI, criminal pursuit, as well as unsolved mysteries. Rachel's father and uncle published a book about the case called The Color of Night, a young mother and a cold-blooded killer. So Rachel's brother and uncle made a book. So if you guys want, go check that out. I might go check it out myself. It sounds pretty sad, but you know. The legal aspects of the death sentence in this case were described in the book Cause of Death, Forensic Files of a Medical Examiner, as well as the law textbook Charity and Law. But yeah, basically Rachel was raped by this man a year prior to her being murdered. She was having card games, wanted to hang out, and then she reported it, was gonna go to court about it. Then she started talking to this guy that was Marvin and that 1 week's guy, and basically plotting, and got her, murdered several other people. Only a couple of the bodies were found, so Rachel was found, the mother, but Shannon, the baby, the 11-month-old girl, to this day still hasn't been found. I believe that he killed more than just them two, like they say in this case, that he killed all the witnesses so he could sit here and be like trying to act all innocent. But it's definitely a sad case. When I heard about it, I didn't know how to feel. Like, I was in so much shock because I'm from Michigan. I go to Cedar a lot, honestly, and hearing this case just makes me just so sad to know like the things that happened. And thankfully they didn't describe more of the gruesome stuff that happened, because the podcast that I listened to, it was very gruesome, on like, not like gruesome, but if you don't like too much aggravation and stuff like that, you wouldn't want to listen to it. But like, he like dragged her, the way he raped her, like torture. And then the murder was just terrible, and I do believe that she wasn't murdered. I think she was tortured again, and then bricks making her drowned. I think she was slowly dying. But it is a very sad case. I do wish that we could bring hope into this world and find Shannon one day, and the other people that are reportedly still missing, because it is not fair for them, not fair for their families. It's very sad what this man did over a woman. So just make sure you guys are safe out there. Man or woman, if you're a man watching this, stay safe out there. Woman, stay safe out there. And anyone else, stay safe. There is crazy people out there. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video so much. I'm going to try to do more like covering cases, ASMR type of videos. But if you guys want to go check out my description, I'm gonna add in like links and like random stuff down below, so you guys can go look at the article yourself, look up pictures and like this and that of like who Marvin was, and like you know stuff like that. And if you didn't understand me, like you can go look it up yourself, and so I'll put that down below. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully you're sleeping, but if you're still awake, I hope you guys enjoyed this video so much. And let me know if you guys want me to report any other cases that you would like to hear, or more ASMR ideas like trigger words, like stuff like that. So yeah, have a blessed day or night, y'all.